Hey everybody, it's Jason. Welcome back to the Mosaic Church Podcast. At the end of this podcast, please take a moment to connect with us on social media. It's a great place to learn more and to see what's happening at Mosaic. Most importantly, hope the following message encourages and inspires you to take a new step on your faith journey. Enjoy. Well, we've all seen this before at our local Piggly Wiggly, Aldi's, Pick and Save, and for those other people, those other rich places like Sendex. You're in the aisle, and there is a temper tantrum that starts. And you see this mom say no to her little baby girl. That baby girl at that moment then starts this screaming and pulling and thrashing like a caged raccoon. And this child now throws itself on the floor, screaming and kicking. And the mom looks around super nervously like, who's seeing this? And you're staring. And the mom, you can see the guilt and shame just start to well over her as this huge thing is happening. And now people are starting to turn the corner and take a look, like what's really going on? Is this kid safe? And we start to ask questions like, what's really going on? Is she hurting this kid? And this kid is screaming because she didn't get a big, huge bag of Kit Kats, right? Maybe all that embarrassment that they're feeling, that's not coming from a place that the child wants to embarrass the parent. It's coming from a place in this toddler that the toddler wants something that it can't have. And in the toddler's mind, if I want something, I get to have it. Now, I'm not going to speak generationally right now about the differences of our generations, but now I'm going to. As our generations are changing and our culture is changing, you're seeing much more of an expectancy versus my grandparents and my great-grandparents. Those who lived through the Depression were happy to have the leftovers of bacon to be able to put onto a piece of bread. And now if we do not get what we want when we want it, there's an expectation of kids like, well, I want McDonald's now. Give me McDonald's now. I want chicken nuggets. And I want what I want. And so there is a change in what's been happening within our culture, but regardless, it's still the same thing. Toddlers want when they want what they want when they want it. And let's take this scenario. Maybe you've seen the kid and you're at your home and the child's playing nicely with their friend and you've got a play date because we have to make play dates to play with kids now. And so you've got your play date and they're playing and all of a sudden you hear a little bit of a scuffle. And you start to hear the words, mine, 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 mine. And you walk into the room, and for whatever reason, this fight is broken out between these two friends. They're holding on to each side of the toy, each tugging and pulling each other in this tug of war over this toy. And so you as the parent now intervene, being the good parent you are, and say, now I'm going to cut this toy in half, and you each get half. No, I'm just kidding. You now say, okay, if you can't play nice, you can't play with it at all. So you take the toy away, in which there's now screaming and thrashing. If you are not a parent yet, this is what you have to look forward to. And so the truth is that from a very young age, now whether you've had kids or not have kids, you've seen this scenario play out somehow, some way. We've seen it. And we've seen the guilt and the shame of the parent because they feel this burden of like, my child's acting this way, but the child's acting that way because it's sinful. There is something inside of it in the very beginning. Like, how can that child, it's just an innocent child, that child is immediately having this response of what mine is mine. And so that mine mentality, unfortunately, does not go away when we grow up. We don't kick and scream most of the time. We do not make a spectacle in public most of the time. But as we get older and we start to gain, we start to say, well, that's mine. This is mine. I've worked for it. I've earned it. So now, as an older person, even though we're taught so hard when we were younger, and we were taught not to have tantrums, we were told and taught to be good and to share. Sharing is caring. Instead, it's mine. And as I've gotten older in life, I've found that instinctual, I need to protect myself. So I start to look at, well, retirement's coming and all these things like it's mine. And I start to feel this, and maybe you can relate, like I've got to protect myself. And no matter how many layers of mine I set up, it's never enough. And so now I'm that little boy grabbing every toy I can and protecting it with my little plastic sword, saying, this is mine, no, you can't touch it or have it. Now, if you're saying, that's not me, I'm going to challenge you to say, that is you, in some form or fashion. Yes, there are radically generous people in this church. Yes, we do great things with our resources and our time and our abilities, and we do great things. But the truth of the matter is, especially in our American culture, there's an epidemic of greed. There's an epidemic. There's an epidemic that is going through our culture, through our churches, and through Christianity like never before, that I want what is mine. And the truth is, you own nothing. You own nothing. You think you own it. You think you have a bank account. You think you have all of these things that are yours. And we go in this mindset, because I've earned it, it's mine. But the truth is, you have it because God has says you can have it. Just think for a minute. Let's just think just for a minute if you get into this idea of greed. Because greed is such a deep-seated, untalked about aspect of Christianity that we just kind of hush over it. Why do we hush over it? We hush over it because of this fact. Pastors hate talking about it. We hate talking about it because we're tired of it. We're tired of talking about money. We're tired of talking, would you please tithe? Would you please be judged? We're exhausted. I'm exhausted, and I just started this church 5 years ago. I'm exhausted of talking about it. Been doing ministry for 20 years. I've heard pastors go up and like, all right, here's the talk on money, here's the talk on generosity, here's the talk on giving. Everybody tunes out. Next Sunday, there's 5 people there. It's exhausting. Why? Because we don't want to talk about it. It's hard to talk about because of the stigma of our culture. So we're going to put that all aside for a second, and we're going to rethink this model. It's not that we're tired of talking about what it means to live radically generous. It's tiring to see such little results of talking. We talk and we talk and we talk and we talk. And we teach the Bible and we try to get people to understand this is a big issue in your spiritual life that if you don't break it, you're not going to see what God can do through you. And so for years upon years, especially my older pastors in front of me, I said, I asked, what's the least favorite thing you talk about? He's like, oh, generosity. I said, why? Why is it so tiring? He goes, because they don't listen. I feel like I talk about it and people tune out. I feel if I talk about it, they find out that if we're talking about this, people are not going to show up. So you didn't know what this is about, so you showed up. I love it. But this is what I want to talk about in a real story from my story. Okay, just from my story. I want to be real with you first so that you can explore this together with me in this passage. I grew up in my childhood, my early childhood, we grew up on welfare. We did not have much money. My dad worked hard. We're a single income home. I grew up in West Milwaukee. We didn't have much. So like for us to get a pizza on a Friday night would be a great splurge. We grew up that way. It came in some money. We moved and we got a house in New Berlin, which was bigger and there was more finances, but we never had a lot. And so I grew up in the world like you finish your plates, like you don't waste food. If mom makes it, you eat it. Like we came from a very different lifestyle that I currently have, my kids have. And so I grew up with this instinctual thing that if I do find something, I need to hold on to it because it'll be taken from me. So I had this inside of me, this I have to protect myself mentality. And that's my story. You may have your own story inside of that. So then when I started to gain resources, I immediately said, I need to gather and protect, like a squirrel gathering nuts, right? And it's the American dream, like protect yourself and invest, and all those things are wonderful. That's not what I'm not saying. But I started with the mentality, this is mine. And in my early life, in our early marriage, generosity was not something I even thought about. Love the church, love Jesus. There's rich people that pay for that. I'm the poor guy. I make $32,000 a year. Someone else can give their money and give their time. I just love coming to church. And so I started that way, and then I went into ministry, and as in ministry, I'm making peanuts, and I'm like, they really don't need my money or my time. So I didn't invest anything financially, but I said, maybe I'll help out when I've got some free time. I didn't understand generosity. And then I heard this talk, and then my mentor talked to me about generosity, and he said this. He said, do you understand that generosity is a condition of the heart in which you live with open hands? It's you believe that you're holding and you squeeze your hands so tight into everything. How does God do anything with your hands when they're closed? I can't do anything. I'm holding on. I can't hug you. I can't slap five. I can give you a fist bump. I can't do anything. I am so fixated in not losing what's inside of here. Instead of opening my hands and saying, God, everything I have is yours. What do you want? My life, my time, my skills, my talent, my resources, the things I've purchased, the things that I have, everything is yours. This is yours. And so live your life with open hands. And I thought, that sounds terrible. Because how am I going to live with open hands? People are going to take advantage of me. I'm not going to give the church. The church wastes it on this and that. And I don't blah, blah, blah. I had all these excuses. And I kept saying, you don't need my piddly little money. And the challenge that I kept going to was that it's not about that. It's about your heart. Because where you're thinking and dreaming and loving is where your heart is. And so I am so fixated on myself and my story with my hands closed until I was transformed to say, you know what? Let's try this. And I'm telling you now, this has transformed my life. This has changed. I'm here because of this. It changed not about money or my resources. It changed my life. I said, God, if you call me to be a church planter, I will go. I don't want to, but I will go. Open my hands, I'm here. But it was years of training and learning with the simplest of things. I work and I give. I work and I give. I work and I give. Now, I've been around radically generous people. I know you guys have too. Maybe you're one of those people. I've been around stingy people. Here are the two types of people. Let's talk about them for a second. You go out to eat with a group of friends. Group of friends are out. They say, there's the radically generous guy. No, I got this. They want to grab the bill. And no. Even though you're faking it, you don't want to pay the bill. No. You know, like this, and this person will say, "Hey, I just want to do this, guys. Like, it's my pleasure. I love that. It's just a joy to me." And they do that, and they want to pay for it. And then there's a person who, as soon as the bill comes, they pick up their phone and look down. You're like, "Oh, I'm not going to pay for that, right?" Hopefully that you're going to get it paid for. And then you're out with people, and the people are like, "Hey, I want to buy everybody some Starbucks." You're out with some people like, you know, like, "Oh, I'm not going to get it. I'm just going to get a glass of water." Like all this like stuff and these people that we've been around. You've been around radically generous. You've been around people who are not generous. And in these worlds, there's a difference in how we see the world around us, the opportunities we have for relationships. Because greed is the opposite of God. God is radically generous. I want you to think about everything he's given you, everything he's given us. Think about he's given his son. Think about he's given us resources. Think about everything you own, everything you have, the air you breathe. He gives you everything. Every piece of food you put into your mouth, because the God of the universe says, I'll allow that. Well, that's because I'm a good worker. I'm smart. You're smart because he made you smart. You have a job because he gave you a job. Well, that's because I've saved well. You've saved well because he's given you resources to save well. You see where this is all trickling down, moving down. Generosity isn't about a topic. It's about a mindset. And that's what we're going to talk about in our Open Hands series. I want you to hear this quote about greed and money and power. Stephen Diamond, he has a PhD, wrote this Evil Deeds from an article in 2009, says this. Addiction is a form of greed. Addicts always want more of what gets them high, gives them pleasure, enables escape from anxiety, suffering in themselves. They greedily crave that which is their substance or rituals or of choice provide. It's drugs, sex, gambling, food, pornography, internet, television, fame, power, money. We all have our personal addictions. Workaholics, rationalism, shopaholics, perfectionists. This is our futile attempt to fill a spiritual and emotional emptiness inside, to gratify some long-buried need, to heal or at least numb some festering psychological wound. I don't like that quote. Because it's, when you think about it, it's true. We are trying to feel better about something. Like, is that 15th spatula from Amazon really going to make you feel better? Is that getting that better thing, having that, does that make you feel better? Because I think Christmas is the perfect time to explain what greed is not. Why is it one time a year You give radically with generosity to everybody. You love giving, especially as older people, man. I don't want to receive gifts. It's not kind of awkward, like, I just want to give to everybody. It's such a joy to be generous on one day of the year, but then we're like, oh, January 1st, bro, I got credit card bills. Now I got to pay because I was radically generous and spent more money than I could really spend. We change our mindsets when it benefits us. And our generosity is linked to what feeds us. And so what we're going to explore today is the idea of greed. We're going to expose it, and then we're going to explore what generosity looks like. Because we have to see that greed is a hole that we're trying to fill a void. And generosity is the fullness of God in our life to give freely with nothing in return. So we're going to be in a couple of passages today. We're going to be Ecclesiastes 5 first and talk about what the struggle truthfully is. Ecclesiastes 5:10 through 20. And here's our struggle. This is from King Solomon, who writes just great passages of wisdom. He writes this as he's looking over his life. What matters, he says. This is what he says. Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. So if that's you, you got called out like thousands of years ago, like it's meaningless, right? As goods increase, so do those who consume them. And what benefit are they to the owners except to feast their eyes on them? The sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether they eat little or much. But as for the rich, their abundance permits them no sleep. I've seen a grievous evil under the sun. Wealth hoarded to the harm of its owners, or wealth lost through some misfortune, so that when they have children, there's nothing left for them to inherit. Everyone comes naked from their mother's womb, and as everyone comes, so they will depart. They take nothing from their toil, and they can carry their hands. This too is a grievous evil. As everyone comes, so they depart. And what do they gain, since their toil for the wind? All their days they eat in darkness, with great frustration, affliction, and anger. This is what I've observed to be good. That's appropriate for a person to eat, to drink, and to find satisfaction in their toilsome labor under the sun during the few days of life God has given them, for this is their lot. Moreover, when God gives someone wealth and possessions and the ability to enjoy them, to accept their lot and be happy in their toil, this is a gift of God. They seldom reflect on the days of their life because God keeps them occupied with gladness of heart. This is an anti-American dream passage. The American dream is to get. 2.5 cars, 2.5 children, Labradoodle, ranch. You've made it. F-150 truck, still cool. You've made it. Job which makes lots of money. You have a big bank account. You have several homes. You've made it. I snowbird here. I do this. That's what the dream has been. And what the author of Ecclesiastes is telling us is like, look, those who love it are never going to be satisfied. And these things, as you read, aren't bad. It's our love of it and our relationship to what we have. Satisfaction does not come from more. Satisfaction comes from where I am and what God has given. So when we rethink the way we look at greed and we look at our ability to be radically generous, when we are satisfied, my hands are open. When my tummy is full, I'm more than glad to say to you, oh yeah, please, eat. I'm done eating. But what if you didn't have to stuff your tummy and you said, I've eaten today, now I want to bring more people to the table with me? That's generosity. Greed says, I eat, and then my family eat, and I poke at you to stay away like a wild wolf, right? I eat, and then when I'm done, okay, now you can eat. That's greed. I get the first lot, you get the leftovers. Generosity says, I change the way I think with everything that I have, and I give freely. Finances are a topic of Scripture over and over and over again, because inside of finances, why is it so clear? That is our control. Finances are our ability to control our life. With finances, we can get or we don't get. With finances, we're able to do or not do. But when we add to that our time, our talents, our abilities, and our very breath, when we are generous as Christians, we're generous with everything that we are because we see that last passage, everything we have is from God. You ever moved before? Ever move? There's things I hate in life. It's moving. I've moved multiple times. We've moved we were in apartments and we moved to a house and we moved up to Slinger. Here's the thing I hate about moving. It's the reality that you're actually a hoarder. I watched that hoarder show, and I'm like, oh my word, I would never, why just throw away the newspapers? Who reads a newspaper anymore, right? And I watch this show, and I watch these people who are so desperately tied to their things. And I'm like, well, that's not me. And then you move. And you realize, do I really need that love note from 8th grade from a girl I've never really remember her name anymore, right? And you've just got this accumulation of stuff and of things. And then usually when people move, they start to downsize. And then you start downsizing, which is a good thing, right? We start downsizing, and then we start packing. Like, how do I still have so much stuff? It just accumulates and accumulates and accumulates. And when you're moving, it's such a beautiful picture of, do I really need all this? And one of the ways of downsizing, I've gone through a lot of different books and stuff to just learn about living simple life. They say if you don't touch something for a year, if it's not valuable or doesn't have something extremely sentimental to you, you get rid of it. So if you haven't touched something for a year, you get rid of it. Think about how much little stuff you'd have if you haven't touched something for a year and it's not sentimental or important, like your mom's wedding ring or something like that. Not that. Like, we're talking about just stuff in your house you haven't touched for a year. How much would you get rid of? And I think we'd all say quite a bit. Unless you're a minimalist, God bless you, please teach us how to do that. Because minimalism is that idea of, like, I want to live with little, because as Americans, all this accumulation of all these things are weighing us down to cause us now anxiety. That's where hoarders come in. There's anxiety, and all of this starts to make us unhealthy. But if we rethink that model and live radically generous, how can I help you? My hands are open all the time. What can I give to you? And I love it. I mean, I've been in both worlds. I've been in the worlds of Ebenezer Scrooge, mine, mine, mine. I've lived in the world of radical generosity, and there's times that I fluctuate in between those two worlds. My happiest, most joyous, and I'm going to use the word content, is when I personally live radically generous. I love it. It just brings me joy. Like Christmas all the time. You like the magic of Christmas? Be generous. You like that feeling of giving and knowing that you're doing something good? Be generous. With your time, your resources, everything, live generous. Because here's the truth of what Solomon says again in verse 15. Everybody comes naked from their mother's womb, and as everyone comes, so they depart. They can take nothing from their toil that they can carry in their hands. This too is a grievous evil. As everyone comes, so they depart. So what do they gain? Since they toil for the wind, all their days they eat in darkness with great frustration, affliction, and anger. I've done funerals. You know the saying, you ain't taking nothing with you. I don't care what we put in the casket, it's not coming with you. It's still there. Everything you're accumulating, and I unfortunately have had to work through some of that with family members, all the stuff. Oh, I'm going to save this for my kids. We don't want it. Unless it's like a brand new MacBook. Just, it all gets donated to St. Vincent de Paul. All these treasures that we think are important aren't. We think and believe in a system that isn't real because we feel that brings us security. You will take nothing with you, but we're going to find out what you take with you is that what you store up in heaven. On with Solomon. He struggles with this concept that we have everything from God, and he pushes us with this. Verse 18, this is what I have observed to be good, that is appropriate for a person to eat, to drink, and to find satisfaction in their toilsome labor under the sun during the few days of life God has given them, for this is their lot. Moreover, when God gives someone wealth and possessions and the ability to enjoy them, to accept their lot and be happy in their toil, this is a gift from God. So, see, it's not a bad thing. It is a good thing. It is a gift from God. So what we do as humans is we take this beautiful gift and, like all sin, we twist it for darkness. These beautiful gifts, if you have wealth, you have possessions, it's God's gift to you. God bless you. That's awesome. But what are you doing with it, and what's your heart condition with it? Because everything is from him. So generosity is radical generosity, which is our core value, is seeing everything I have is a gift, therefore I live like this. I live like this. My hands are open to the gifts God's given me. You can also be a part of them. You can be a part of this story. It's not mine, mine, mine. he's asked me to take care of this. And so you can be part of that story. Just think of hospitality in your home. Think about inviting people to your cabin to take them water tubing because you've got a sweet boat. Think about the things you can do to give away to others. And if you're wondering what one of the most impactful things in my teenage life, you want to impact a teenager, is be radically generous to them. Be generous to them. Give them your time. Give them your resources. Take them out on those boats and do fun things. If you have teens, bring their friends along and let them see what that looks like. Because the mine aspect just doesn't make sense anymore. We're going to move on. In Mark, listen to this story, because here's a guy who almost had it in Mark 10, 17 to 22, but his possessions and what he owned couldn't get him to the point of saying, I want to follow Jesus. It says this. As Jesus started on his way, a man ran up to him and fell on his knees before him. Good teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Why do you call me good? Jesus answered, no one is good except God alone. You know the commandments. Do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal, do not give false testimony, do not defraud, honor your father and mother. Teacher, he declared, all of these I've kept since a boy. And Jesus looked at him and loved him. One thing you lack, he said, go sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me. At this, the man's face fell, and he went away sad because he had great wealth. This man was doing everything right. He's following the law, he's following Torah, he's following the Ten Commandments. And Jesus says, hey, why do you call me good? Because only God is good. So this was a play on words of him actually calling Jesus God. And so he's like, you call me good, only God is good. But he didn't realize that Jesus was actually the Son of God. He sees it just as a teacher. And so there's a play on words there. He says this, okay, since I've been a boy, I've done every religious act that you've acted. And he says, that's awesome. And his heart loves him. So Jesus loves the dedication of this man. He says this, you are living like this, bro. Live like this and come and follow me. Because to follow me, you got to live like this. And he said no. Read this again. Hear what I'm saying here. You have done all the religious things so good. Man, you went to Bible studies and Sunday schools. You did everything. But you have a lot. Dude, do this, and you're going to get this, and you can be my disciple. And he said no. No. Not going to do that. You ask too much. And he went away sad. He didn't go away mad. He went away sad. Think about that. There was a brokenness of his heart because he loves this. This is his identity. This is what gets him. Like, I'm a religious guy, and this is important to me. You're asking me to give up what's important to me. All the religious stuff is easy. This is hard, so no. And now Jesus, he doesn't follow him. Can you imagine that? Think of your journey with Jesus right now. If you're highly religious, you're reading the Bible, put 15,000, which I love, hope you do it. You're reading the Word, you're doing everything, but when it comes to your resources, you say no. No, I'm not doing that. I don't like that part. And this is the thing about church. There's been so many people abused by churches and giving. Some of you come from churches that they put a placard up on the wall with your name and how much you gave for that year, or you get a report. Here are our top 10 givers, and then those people get to sit in front. They got purple thrones or whatever. I don't know. Making stuff up. And so this idea of being generous has become abusive. Let me tell you about Mosaic Church. I have no idea what people give in this church family. I never have, and I never will, because it's not for me to talk about. The heart of man is deceitful and wicked, and I said, if any time I knew that, my mind could not handle that. I know nothing. The people that know the information of that is our treasurer and assistant treasurer. I don't know anything about it. The reason why I do that is because this isn't a game to me. This is about life transformation and discipleship. Are we under-resourced? Yes, we're under-resourced. I know giving units, like how many people give. You get a letter from me. You're going to get one in January. If you gave this year, you'll get a thank you. You get a letter, and you get your tax deduction form and all that stuff. But honestly, I don't know, because I don't want to know, because it's your spiritual journey. And as I'm here to teach and train you like a coach. A teacher, a pastor is a coach. I'm training you in the ways of God. And this one is the most sensitive topic because we don't want to hear, I got to let go. That's why. I don't want to. but I can't go on my vacations. I can't do this, can't do that. I understand that because neither can I. I get that. But when I go like this, it brings me contentment, peace, and shalom. I feel joyous when I live like this. And when I go mine, which I do from time to time, I don't feel good about it. And so am I like this young man who's going to have his hands closed or his hands open? Again, not just finances, all of us, all of our resources, our time, our talents. Why are we holding on to everything, saying mine, mine, mine? I want this visual to be stuck in your head. That's why I keep doing it. Because this is us when we're greedy. We've held on so hard to things that do not matter. But listen now to Matthew 6:19-21, when Jesus talks about rust. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moths and rust do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, your heart is also. We have property up north. My family does. I have a little camper, and we had thieves come through last month. They broke through all of, my family owns this lot of land. We had thieves come through, broke into all the different RVs that were up there. We've got an old one. I mean, break it all you want. There's nothing there, bro. So they broke in, and I had a shed, and I had a really nice chainsaw because I have to work the land and cut trees. So I had a nice chainsaw. He stole my chainsaw. And I got pictures that they had a crowbar. We're trying to break into our RV, so that's all dented up. And there was a lot of emotions that from my family and for us, like, oh my goodness, because there's that feeling of things being stolen from you. If you've ever been robbed before, it's a really gross feeling. You feel violated, like people were in your space, and like it's just a really hard feeling to kind of work through. And I sat there. I'm like, it's okay. It's just stuff. I don't know why. That's not Jason. That's Jesus. Like, it's okay. My family, talk with my family, like, oh, they stole this. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's just stuff, man. Everybody's safe. Nobody got hurt. No one was at the place. There's nothing to worry about. My first inclination was, okay, everything's okay. And then I sat and thought about it, like, that was an expensive chainsaw. And I started to think through, I actually got name brand this time, and now it's stolen. And I started to get mad. And I started to get frustrated. And I'm like, okay, well, are the police going to find this guy? If they find him, they better tase him. And I'm getting like all angry in my head. And I'm literally sitting there like, it doesn't matter, Jason. It's just a chainsaw. And I started to think about this idea of spending my time and my resources and my open hands on things that matter. Because the things that matter, according to Jesus, are things that matter for eternity. This stuff, if I don't use my chainsaw for eternity, it doesn't matter. How do I use my chainsaw for eternity? Radical generosity. Can I help you cut down those trees? Do you like to use mine? I'll pay for your gas. I'm here to help you. Generous. Anything I have is for you. Everything I have is yours if you want it. That's radical generosity. And the other side of it is mine, 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 mine. The things that we have here on earth, they're going to go and they're going to be rusted and they're going to be destroyed. You buy that brand new car in 1982 is a pile of junk now, right? Oh, I got this car. It's a beautiful car, brand new off the lot, 1982. It's 2024. It's garbage. Oh, these clothes are so great. They're so fresh. Well, honestly, the 90s came back, so my clothes are cool again. But you get all these clothes and they're completely out of style. Everything goes. Everything is meaningless unless we have our resources for the kingdom of God. Now it matters because you're advancing the kingdom, helping others, loving others, serving others. And that's why in January we have so many opportunities for use your time and talent. You have an opportunity to serve people, be with people, use your time and your giftings for things that matter, your resources. What you give to Mosaic is for advancing the kingdom and our ministry. There's one person on staff. It's me. Everything we do is at the bottom of our budget. We do everything we can to go outwards with what we have. And I'm like, man, if we had more, we could be more generous because radical generosity is what we are in our dream. I dream that when we start giving radically, that 25 to 30% of everything we give goes out. We can't do it yet. Like, I have all these dreams of living out radical generosity as a church, but if we keep living like this, it can't happen. If we keep living like this, we can't keep doing kids ministry. We can't keep having the ministries. Why don't we do this? Why don't we have more of that? Because we don't have enough people who are like this. There's lots of great ideas. Oh man, we could add this ministry and that ministry. Do we have anybody like this with open hands? And that's what I'm dreaming of. What does it look like for a group of believers to live open-handed, live radically generous, and store their gifts up in heaven? Where your treasure is, where your heart is. It's just facts. Where your treasure is where your heart is. That which you think about, talk about, is what you love. What you talk about, what you think about, what you obsess about is where your heart is. When someone is in your life and there's a chance of generosity, both here and out, are you doing it? Or are you holding your hands in? This is how I want to close this up. This is how we win in generosity. Philippians 4, 11 through 13. This is how we win. Paul teaching this. I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need. I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Philippians 4:13, written on every pro athlete's shoe, has nothing to do with the game of basketball. It has to do with being content. It has to do with the fact that whether I'm starving or I've got a lot, I have much or I have little, I'm content. And when you are content, you open your hands. When you find contentment in your situation, no matter what it is, you change the way that you see life, your resources, and you start to believe and see that God is the provider of all, and now he's going to take care of me. And so I want to close our time before we enter into communion with an opportunity for you to do this. I hate when people on stage say, everybody do this. I hate it, but that's okay. You're going to do it anyways. I don't want to make a spectacle of you. This is just for you. I want you to have a gut check right now. We're going to pray. Simply put your hands and close your fists. And I want you to squeeze hard. Squeeze hard. As you're squeezing, I want you to feel the fatigue of your hands. If there's no fatigue, squeeze harder. Your hands are going to start to tingle. They're going to start to get tired. It's going to feel like a weight in your hands. Now open your hands. Feel the relief. Feel the joy. Feel the weight is gone. Feel the contentment. This is what living a generous life feels like. Pray with me. Heavenly Father, we love you with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. You've given.
Once again, thank you so much for listening. If you live in Southeast Wisconsin, we would love to connect with you at our weekend gathering. For service time, directions, and to learn more about our vision to ignite a movement of love that transforms our community and the world, visit us at mosaicwi.com.